Hello everyone, thanks for watching another video. A little while ago I made this video that you can see here. I cloned myself and I teased you all with a bit of information about how you can clone your own voice and how you can create an agent version of yourself. And then I didn't actually follow it up. I sent a few people some links and I chatted privately with a few people, but I didn't actually follow up on what I said I should have done, and I feel terrible about it. So if you think of this as my Christmas gift to everybody here who had a very little bit of interest in cloning themselves, which is a wonderful thing to do at Christmas, I wanted to follow up with how to do it. So this video basically gives you a little bit of insight on how to do it, and I thought it would be a bit of fun just to do that. So first off, sorry for not following up immediately with the video that I should have done, and this one hopefully answers all of your questions. I'm going to get rid of myself here. There's too many bubbles of Rob on the screen. It's awful. Narcissistic thing. Anyway, I'm going to talk about a product. I'm nowhere connected to this company at all, but I've used them a little while ago. I used them quite a while ago actually to create some text-to-speech stuff, and I just thought it was brilliant. I was absolutely amazed at how good it was. That was over a year ago that I created some text-to-speech for a video for a company that I was contracting with at the time, and it worked really, really, really well. And I'm going to basically show you a little bit of that and show you more the agent platform. There's two sides to Elevenlabs, and one side is the creative platform that does all the text-to-speech stuff, the whole voice changing and the voice design and the voice cloning bits and pieces. And now they also do a whole bunch of video stuff. I think there's Sora 2 and image creation and all kinds of things on there. I think they're a European company too. So if you're on the European side of the AI sort of revolution, then they're a good one in that sense. Fascinating platform from my perspective, super interesting, and I'm going to show you a little bit of it. So there's the creative side and there's the agent side. We're going to focus more on the agent side today if we can, and just have a look at how that works. So I'm going to dive straight in and just show you some bits here. But essentially what we've got in the agent side is both an ability to create new agents and configure them, as you would imagine. You can do stuff like like a knowledge base, which is basically like sort of RAG, if you like, for your agent, and you can assign them voices. So just to sort of start at the beginning, you're basically going to probably dive straight into it and do the same thing that I did, which is to try and create a new voice, which you can do here, and then assign that voice to an agent and get the agent to do stuff for you. So I'm basically going to show you how to do that. So if you wanted to do a new voice, you start a new one. I've already got one, so I'm not going to go through how that already starts, but basically you would just either do, probably the fastest way to get into it is do the instant voice clone, which takes about, it says here, about 2 minutes, and it basically means that you've got to speak for about 30 seconds, at the minimum 30 seconds, into Elevenlabs, and it will listen to your voice and then create the basic version of yourself. And I would suggest you start there, right? I've already got one of these, so we're not going to go through training the voice for 2 minutes. The video will be too long, but it's very, very straightforward to do. You just basically talk into it and then save it with a suitable name. And mine is called Rob, which is a super imaginative name. Once you've got that, then you can create a new agent. And I've got a few agents here that I've been playing around with. This is the test workspace. We're going to create a new one. So let's create a new agent. There's a whole different bunch of templates you can use, but essentially they're all variations on the same thing. But I would just create a personal assistant or a blank agent. Basically, the business and the personal one it gives you access to different pre-built bits and pieces. So we'll just pick personal assistant. Again, these are versions of use cases that basically help you build the prompt that you're looking for. I'm going to pick another personal assistant here. The last one I created was Lorem Ipsum 2, but we'll call this one Bob. And Bob is going to be an expert on LinkedIn, and Bob's going to help us create amazing LinkedIn content, which is probably really an awful purpose for an agent. I think if there's one thing that LinkedIn doesn't need any more of, it's AI generated content. But in any case, let's roll with it just for humour's sake, and we're going to create this agent. And basically what it's going to do in the background is create a prompt. It's going to set you up with all the default stuff pointing at an underlying LLM that's going to do the business for you, and then it's going to give it some guardrails and some other bits and pieces, and you can see that as part of the system prompt. So in here you've got the basics around the agent, what it's going to lead with in terms of a first message, who the voice is based on. So you can pick different voices. So we're gonna pick. I don't know if we can pick Rob in here or not. Let's see if he's there. Yeah, we'll pick Rob's full clone. And most of the settings here in terms of stability, speed, and similarity, you'll want to play with just to make sure it's working the way you want it to work. The default is English, American English, and you can pick the LLM you want to point it at. And I've actually played around with this quite a lot, and pointing at different LLMs actually makes a significant difference. So I would really sort of have a look around and see and experiment and see what you've got. There's also a different cost associated with each one of these. Obviously, this is not a free service, used at scale. So you want to make sure that you're hitting the balance right between the LLM that's behaving like you want it to, and you're only going to really discover that by testing it, or evals, or whatever you want to call them. But basically, using the thing, getting other people to use it, and then discovering which of them is tuned up best for you. That's my explanation of it. And you've got a huge amount to choose from. You can choose from all the Anthropic ones, or the ones that Elevenlabs pretty much recommends. I've been really using the Gemini models, and this is obviously, it's not even 3, this is 2.5, and it's the one that's tuned up for speed, because the latency aspect of conversations really makes a big difference. There's lots of other settings in here you can go through. I'm not going to go through all those. The important thing really is the system prompt and how you get started with it. And out of the box, Elevenlabs will do its best. I'll move myself out of the way here. Elevenlabs will do its best to give you something that helps you describe what it is that you think you want it to do. It's also going to pick up on what you've typed in before, so you can see some stuff here is actually related to other things that I've played around with, and it's talking about myself and all this kind of stuff, because this relates to the example that I showed you in the video, which was creating a version of myself. So this one's pointed at LinkedIn and those kind of things, but you could easily create an agent for any number of different stuff. And tuning up the system prompt here is where you're going to get your biggest bang for buck in terms of what you'll actually see it do. And the prompting in this respect can be quite useful. But be mindful that the more complex you make that prompt, the greater the chances of it not behaving like you want it to. The other thing is that first message that the thing's going to speak back to you when you actually run the agent. It's going to say, hello, good morning, what can I do for you, and how can we create some amazing LinkedIn content, which is going to be quite interesting. The other one to have a look at are workflows. Now, these enable you to have structured conversations that follow a particular path, or will farm you out to different agents to do different things depending on the body of the conversation. So I'm not going to get into this too much, but I would definitely say explore. The other great thing about Elevenlabs is they've got really good coaching throughout this in terms of video coaching and how to do stuff as you span through. Branches is new, don't really know much about it. Knowledge base is where you would add the stuff that you want to add from a RAG point of view. So if you want to point this thing at specific information that's tailored to you, that's not going to be in the underlying model, this is the place to add it. And it will actually refer to that best it can when it comes to prompts and those kind of things. Another thing that I found quite useful are tools. This is an opportunity for you to link up with any MCP based stuff, so external services that use MCP as a protocol. I've used API responses and things like that I've built in other apps and then hosted and then pointed it at an API. For example, in the yacht advice and the sailing advice agent, that uses an API that's linked up to a whole bunch of marine data and marine weather stuff, and you can put those APIs together and then integrate that in the prompt, and then say in the system prompt and say, well, when the user does this kind of thing, when they ask about the weather, use the weather tool to return the weather. And what I found is the more structured and the more concise that you can build your APIs, increases the chance of the agent actually getting the answer right. If you point the agent at large unstructured JSON returns or some kind of API response that isn't structured, then you're going to get hallucinations, and you're going to get random messages and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of funky stuff that happens, which you don't really want to do. So, but tools, workflow, and knowledge base are super interesting to get you started and actually do quite refined things, really, in that sense. So I would start there. There should be enough there for you to build an agent. There should be enough there for you to dive in and set up a voice prompt. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. You can actually see conversations that you're having. You can link this up to phone numbers. I've linked this up through a Twilio account to a telephone number, so somebody could call the phone number, your agent picks up, and you're having a conversation with yourself if you've made a version of yourself. So it's actually really quite cool in that sense. There's a lot more depth here that I'm not getting into in this video. It's 10 minutes already, so I've run out of time really. But hopefully that's useful. Play around with it and just build an agent and mess around with that system prompt. I think the power of it comes in the tools and the integration to some degree. But to say that you can do this through the browser without writing any code is incredibly powerful. I think Elevenlabs as a platform is super interesting, and how companies use this and integrate it is fascinating to me. So I think this is where it gets really interesting. You're going to hit the same issues from a reliability point of view, in terms of just how good your agent is. And what I've found is building the agent and keeping the scope narrow is the way to increase the chances of you really having coherent responses, rather than a very wide-ranging, large scope of agents where you give them quite be an all-seeing oracle of information. That is quite a hard thing for any agent to do. So the narrower you can make the scope for your agent, I think that increases the chance of success in reliability. And integrations with tools and other things, and really nailing those API responses increases the chances of it interpreting the data correctly from a RAG point of view, and then giving a coherent conversational response. I hope that's interesting. There's loads more in Elevenlabs that I've not even got into, and it's quite exciting. So I look forward to you all building versions of yourself, and whatever happens to the economy after that is not of my consequence. It is, or not my fault rather, or not a consequence of this video, hopefully. But 11 minutes, hopefully it's useful. Have a play around and have some fun with it. Yeah, I look forward to seeing your agents that you may or may not create off the back of this. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you later. Cheers, bye.